Hello everybody, this is Dave with Blueberries Games. This week's video we're going to be doing a blues budget brews. This week we are going to be doing Orzhov, or the black-white combination, and the commander is Aryel, Knight of Windgrace. This deck is going to be a double, it's going to have two different ways to win. So let me read Aryel first, and then we'll go over the deck. So Aryel is 1 black, 1 white, 2 of any for a 4/4. So 4 to cast, 4/4 is good. Human Knight also has Vigilance, and for 2 and a white, you can tap it and create a 2/2 white Knight creature token with Vigilance. Or you can pay a black, tap it, and tap X untapped Knights you control, and destroy target creature with power X or less. So it's quite a utility. This commander for this deck is quite a utility. Has a lot of things it can do. So as you can tell, we're going to start off with the most obvious. This is first and foremost Knight Tribal, but there's a little surprise in it because in the color combination of white and black, or Orzhov if you will, and the fact that Knights can do it, it's kind of an Aristocrats deck as well. And for those who don't know what that means that it drains 1 life at a time and you gain a life. And I'll show you the cards that do that. So sit back and relax, we're going to go over this. Alright, so let's get rid of Aryel for now, and we'll go over the rest of the deck. Alright, let me zoom out here. So, I always start with, on my deck videos, the lands. Lands are pretty simple. It's Temple of Silence. All the dual lands, quote-unquote dual lands, this is a budget deck, so we're under $50 here. They're going to be black-white dual lands that come into play tapped, and then some have an ability or two. So the first one is Temple of Silence. You can scry one. Sunken or Forsaken Sanctuary doesn't have an ability. Orzhov Basilica, it's the bounce land, so it comes when it comes into play tapped. It comes into play tapped, and when it does come into play, you return a land you control to its owner's hand, but it taps to add a blue and a black instead of either. Orzhov Guildgate and Scoured Barrens is one of the ones that comes into play. You gain a life. I put a Terramorphic Expansion Evolving Wilds in all my budget versions of decks, just so you can thin your deck out and grab the land you need in case you're not getting the right color. It happens every once in a while. Desert of the True cycles, and Desert of the Glorified also cycles. Rogue's Passage is in here because the commander actually has a pretty high power. So you can possibly win with commander damage. It's not guaranteed, but at least you can give it a shot. And then a combination of swamps and plains from there. So pretty simple stuff. Not too hard to, get that land base together for a budget deck. Alright. Next, I'll do the ramp section. White and black don't have a lot of ramp options, so I had to go with artifacts that could go get lands and either fix your mana, which means go get it and put it in your hand, or bring it into play. And remember, we have to stay on a budget, so the choices are pretty slim. So we start with Traveler's Amulet. It's 1 to cast, and then you can pay 1 and sacrifice it, and then search your library for basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, so it fixes your mana. Orzhov Locket, it's a 3 to cast mana rock. It adds a black or a white. And then for a hybrid of black, white, 4 of them, you can tap it, sacrifice it, and draw 2 cards. And the Clue Stone, same thing, only it's 1 black and 1 white instead of 4, and you can tap it and sacrifice it to draw a card as well. Mana Geode, it's a 3 to cast rock as well. When it enters the battlefield, you draw or scry 1, and then it adds 1 mana of any color. Obviously, it's going to be black or white here. And then Manalith, same thing. 3 to cast, tap it to add a mana of any color. Not a lot of options in black-white, especially on budget, for mana ramping or fixing. So those are the ones I had available to me at the time. That's what I put in here. And it works. I mean, this deck doesn't really need a lot of ramping anyway. Most of the stuff in here is pretty cheap. I don't believe that many things go above 4. So once you get to 4 lands, you should be okay. So you're just trying to thin out the deck with the amulet. No big deal. This section's pretty thick. This is the knights. So we're going to go over each knight real quick, as quickly as I can. I'll tell you what everything does, and then tell you where the combos are if there are any. So we start with Dauntless Bodyguard. It's a 1 to cast 2/1 knight. So the important thing here is the 2 power for 1 mana with abilities is always great. When it enters the battlefield, choose another creature you control, and then you can sacrifice it to have that creature gain indestructible until end of turn. So it's a 1 to cast 2/1 with upside, not downside. Venerable Knight is 1 to cast 2/1 as well, and when it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target knight you control. So every creature in this deck is a knight, so it, again, upside. Youthful Knight is 2 to cast 2/1, but this one has first strike. Worthy Knight is a 2 to cast 2/2, and whenever you cast a knight spell, create a 1/1 human creature token. And again, everything here is a knight, so you can get a lot of a good amount of tokens out of that. A Quarter Paladin is a 2 to cast 3/1 with Battlecry. Battlecry says whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0. Capuchin Knight is a 2 to cast 1/1 first striker, and then for each one white and one of any, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So a lot of power buffing in this deck. Knight of Cliffhaven. This is a weirder one for any of you newer players. It's a 2 to cast creature. It starts off as just a 2/2, and this has level up, which means that for every 3 you put into it, you put a level counter on it, but you can only do it as a sorcery during your turn. So with 1 to 3 level up counters on it, or level counters, it becomes a 2/3 flyer, and then if you have 4 plus, which you wouldn't go above 4 anyway, unless you needed a mana sink. It has flying and vigilance, and it's a 4/4. So not a lot of flying in the deck. That's one way to get there. Knight of Glory is a 2 to cast 2/1 with protection from black. What that means is that it can't be blocked, targeted, or damaged, or enchanted by anything that's black. And Exalted, which is whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And Exalted triggers stacks, so if you're doing, I didn't put it in here. Exalted was just a bonus for a 2/1 pro black creature. Exalted does stack though, so if you have other ways to include in here, there's a land that does it, and you can put Exalted in here, more copies. You can use it for your commander, attack with your commander and stack the damage so you can kill somebody with commander damage. Again, not common for this style of deck though. Knight of Grace, it's another 2 to cast. It's a 2/2 first strike with hexproof from black, which means that your opponent's stuff that's black can't target it. And then it also gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a black permanent. That includes yourself, and you're in black-white, so it may, be not so obvious, but you can give it itself the +1/+0. Leonin Sky Hunter, it's a 2 to cast 2/2, but it's flying. It's a cat knight. Normally I put these in cat decks, but hey, it works in a knight deck, especially when there's limited options for flying. Order of the White Shield, it's 2 white for a 2/1 pro black, or protection from black, with 2 abilities. The first one is for a white, you can give it first strike, and the second one is for 2 white, and this has got a colon next to it, meaning as much as you can do it, it gets +1/+0, so you can pump up its power. Alright, Spectral Rider, 2 white for a 2/2 Spirit Knight, has Intimidate, which is basically like Fear, but for white, it says creatures can't be blocked. This creature can't be blocked except by creatures that are artifact and or share a color with it. White Knight, one of the most staple knights in the game. Oldest knight in the game probably too. It's a 2 to cast 2/2 with first strike and protection from black. Protection from black is great, especially in scenarios where most people, well not most people, but a good number of people have black in their commander decks. So usually for spot removal, so this gets around that. Only thing it doesn't get around is, board wipes. Alright, Danitha, Capuchin Paragon, 3 to cast for a 2/2 with first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. And then aura and equipment spells you cast cost 1 last to cast. I don't think I have too many auras in here, or equipment, just because it wasn't needed. But you could actually, if you really wanted to, you could do a couple of changes to the deck and revolve it around that if you wanted to, or even make this its own commander. It's up to you. Acclaimed Contender is 3 for a 3/3, so right off the bat it's good power toughness. For a human knight, with when it enters the battlefield, if you control another knight, which you will, usually, look at the top 5 cards of your library, and you may reveal a knight or equipment or legendary artifact card from among them, and put it in your hand and put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. Alright, it's a mouthful to say. This basically is to help it so that when you control a knight, you can draw. It's not really draw so much, but you can filter through the top couple cards of your deck and then get a card into your hand. Alright, Ardenvale Tactician. It's a 3 to cast 2/3 flyer. It has Adventure, and Adventure is kind of a different ability. So you can cast it for its Adventure, you exile the card, and then you may cast the card as the creature if you want to. If you need more help with that, ask, and I'll go over it more in depth. But if you don't know what Adventure is, I'll explain it differently, but by itself instead of including it into this video. But its Adventure is for 2. You can tap it, or you can tap up to 2 target creatures, and then it itself is a 2/3 flyer. Chieftain and Dale. It's a 3 to cast 2/2. It's a knight as well, like everything else so far. Whenever it attacks, attacking creatures gain first strike until end of turn. Kemba Skyguard, again, another one of those ones that I usually put in cat decks, but it's a knight, so it's got to go into a knight deck. It's a 3 to cast 2/2, but it has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Knight of Dawn. It's a 3 to cast 2/2 first striker, and it has the ability that for 2 white, it can gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, so it can get around things. So instead of actually having it, you can give it protection from every color if you really want to. Alright. Banalish Marshal. It's a 3 white for a 3/3, so good power toughness for casting cost. And it's an Anthem, so it gives other creatures you control +1/+1. There's a couple of more in here. We'll see them later, but there's a couple of Anthems in this deck to buff your creatures up. Kabir Vindicator. It's a 4 to cast. It's another one of those level up creatures. So it starts as a 2/4, and then when you level it up to between 2 and 4 counters, it's an Anthem. So other creatures you control get +1/+1, and then if you've got 5 counters on it, they get +2/+2 instead. So, and it's a 4/8 at the high end. So, Quende, Bride of Femerith. 4 to cast 2/2 with double strike, and then creatures you control as first strike have double strike. If you didn't notice, a lot of things in here already have first strike. So double strike is it hits and then it hits again. So it does first strike damage first and then regular damage second. So a lot of things in here are able to use that ability to its advantage. So just keep that in mind. Like this one. Sky Hunter Patrol. It's again one of those things I usually put in a cat deck, but it's a 4 to cast 2/3 flying first strike. Cloud Crusader. It's a 4 to cast 2/3 flying and first strike. So I tried to find as many knights that had flying as I could, because that's usually the issue with a lot of like white weenie decks, is that they don't have a lot of flying. Sir Alan the Lion's Claw is 5 to cast 4/4. It's got first strike, and when it attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in here that has first strike. So the dude that gives double strike to the first strike, really a good inclusion here. All right, some of the black creatures. We have another one with Adventure. It's Foulmire Knight. It's the Adventure is 3, and it lets you draw a card to lose a life as an instant. And then the knight itself is a 1/1 Death Toucher for 1. Knight of Infamy. 2 to cast for a 2/1 with protection from white. Pro white gets around some spot removal, but it doesn't get around board wipes. So, I mean, white's not played as heavily, but it depends on your play group. It could be good. It's unexpected for sure. And then Exalted again. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1. Knight of Malice, 2 to cast for a 2/2 first strike, hexproof from white, and it gets +1/+0 if any player controls a white permanent, which you will. Smitten Swordmaster. This is one of those ones where if I could figure out a way, and there are ways to do it, especially in black. This is a kill condition, actually. If done right and you can recur this over and over again, Smitten Swordmaster is actually a kill card. So I'll go over the creature first. It's a 2 to cast, 2/1 with lifelink. However, its adventure is really interesting for this deck. It's Curry Favor, and for 1 black, when you cast it, you gain X life, and each opponent loses X life or X's number of knights you control. As you can see, there's a lot of knights here. Getting to 40 knights in a game, probably not going to happen, but if you can recur this when you have 5 or 10 over and over again, it could be the difference. This is part of the Aristocrats version of this deck. So, yes, Knight Tribal, also Aristocrats. This is the first card you've seen so far. It's the best one you've seen. I'm sure the rest of them are good, but this one just takes the cake in this deck. Especially when considering Aryel can create a whole bunch of knights out of nowhere for nothing. Not really nothing, but for 3 mana and tapping it, it's a good inclusion. Order of Midnight, another adventure card. So that it's a 2 to cast, 2/2 flying that can't block knight. Or its adventure is for 2, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Now, as I said, if there's a way to recur Smitten Swordmaster, because for all intents and purposes, it is a creature in your graveyard. So if you can put on its adventure, then put it out. It's a 2/1 life linker, so you'll attack with it so you can gain some life. It'll die, and then you can cast Order of Midnight, the After Fate part of it, the adventure part, and grab it back. Black Knight, 2 to cast, 2/2 first strike and pro white. Simple, plain, easy, clear. Bell of the Brawl, 3 to cast, 3/2 with Menace. Menace is basically fear, but they changed the name to Menace for the other. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. That was wrong. Menace is it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. My bad, that's Intimidate. And then whenever it attacks other knights you control, get +1/+0 until end of turn, so more attack buffing. Always good. Locktwain Paladin, 4 to cast for a 3/2 with Menace again. And this one has Adamant, so if at least 3 black mana was spent to cast him, it enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you spent 3 black and a white to cast it, it's a 4/3. Wintermoor Commander. It's a black and a white, and it's a 2-star for its power toughness. So it has Death Touch. Its toughness is equal to the number of knights you control. It counts itself as well, so it's always a 2/1 at least. And when it attacks, another target knight you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Second card for the Aristocrat style for this deck. Corpse Knight. 1 white, 1 black for a 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. You're going to have a lot of creatures entering. This is basically, a commander's version of a white weenie deck. Only it's a black-white weenie deck. And Aryel itself creates a lot of tokens if left unchecked. Blood Cursed Knight. It's a black, a white, and 1 for a 3/2. As long as you control an enchantment, it gets +1/+1 and lifelink. Now, there are a couple of enchantments in the deck, so there is a way to utilize that ability. And the final creature is Resolute Rider. It is hybrid of 4 for black and white. It is a 4/2, and for 2 hybrid black-white, it gains lifelink, and for 3 hybrid black-white, it gains indestructible until end of turn. So, a lot of good creatures in here, a lot of cheap creatures. Like I said, the converted mana cost here is usually its average is about 2 to 2.5. A couple of things go above the 3 mark, but not many. So you're not gonna need a lot. The only problem that I can see so far with this deck when I was testing it out is that you have to find a way to fill your hand, but unfortunately, black-white doesn't have a lot of options, but I did include a couple. So. This section is the I'm sorry. We're going to skip that for now. We're going to go to this section first. This section here is the Anthem section. There's a couple of cards in here to help buffer creatures to make them bigger so that when you attack, you get more damage through. We're going to go through that section first. We'll go through the other section in a second. This is Radiant Destiny. It's the Anthems. It's 3 to cast with Ascend. Ascend means that if you have 10 or more permanents, you gain the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. No matter what, you can't lose it. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Obviously, you're going to choose Knight here. And then creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. But if you have the City's Blessing, they also gain Vigilance. Etchings of the Chosen is a black, a white, and 1. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type again. Creatures you control of the chosen type also get +1/+1. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice a creature of that type, and target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. So you're creating tokens that are knights, so that's good to have too. And the last Anthem in here is black, a white, and 4 for Ethereal Absolution. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And then for 2, add a black and white, and this is a colon, so you can do this as much as you want. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard, and if it was a creature card, you may put a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So again, more tokens, more stuff to sacrifice. So that's a little small section of extra anthems and buffs for the deck. I wanted to hold off on this one because this one's actually the important part. The second way to kill, I told you, was Aristocrat style. These are the cards that, aside from the Smitten Sword Master and the Corpse Knight, these are the other cards that help do that. So Knight's Charge is a black, a white, and 1. Whenever a knight, it's an enchantment. Whenever a knight you control attacks, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. That's for each, I believe. I'll actually, when I'm doing this video in post and I put it up there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look it up after the video, and then I'll put it up on the screen. You'll see it flash across whether or not. I believe it's for each knight that attacks. I don't know if they've errated this or not. So, but it says whenever a knight, so I would assume it is. Each opponent loses life and you gain a life. So at this moment, I'm going to say if you're attacking with 5, they lose 5, you gain 5. But I'll have to just double check that. And then for 6, a black and a white, you can sacrifice it, Knight's Charge, to return all knights knight creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then Campaign of Vengeance is the last version of the Aristocrat stuff. It's a black, a white, and 3 for an enchantment. And it says whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses life and you gain a life. So both of them, with this style of deck, you're going to be attacking. So, and you can even attack with just the tokens that you create. You're going to be doing a lot of it. So you might as well get extra damage in. You might even be able to kill an opponent before you even get to finish the attack. And the last section is defense and utility. So I will put the English version of this card up. It's Oblivion Ring. It's a 3 to cast enchantment that says exile target non-land card until this leaves the battlefield. I will put the English version up next to it, right around, say, here for you guys later. But it's defense. It helps. It's an enchantment that gets rid of something on the board. It exiles it until it leaves play. Doomblade, 2 to cast, destroy target non-black creature for an instant. Murder, same thing, 3 to cast, destroy target creature as an instant. Divine Offering, it's a 2 to cast instant that destroys an artifact, and you gain life equal to the artifact's casting cost. Disenchant, destroy an artifact or enchantment. Despark, a black and a white, and exile target permanent, so anything with a converted mana cost 4 or greater. That's a permanent anyway. Dire Tactics, it's black and a white, and exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to the creature's toughness. Most of the knights, if not all of them, most of them, not all of them, there's cat ones in here, but most of them are humans. Mortify, a black, a white, and 1, destroy target creature or enchantment. Solemn Offering, 3 to cast, sorcery, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 4 life. Dust to Dust, it's 3 to cast for sorcery, remove 2 target artifacts from the game. These are exiling, so things like a blight, is it a blight steel, a dark steel, or a blight steel? One of the 2 artifacts. Both of them are artifacts. I don't know. No, I do know they are. You can remove them from the game rather than just trying to kill them because they're indestructible. Call to the Cavalry. It's a 4-cast sorcery. Create 2/2/2 Knight tokens with Vigilance. Allied Reinforcements. Create 2/2/2 White Knight ally creature tokens. Dusk to Dawn. The Dusk part is 4-cast. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. If you haven't gotten to your anthems, you can actually board wipe most of the stuff that's not on your side. And then the Dawn part is this can only be cast for, like, it's Aftermath, so it can only be cast from your graveyard. And it says return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield or to your hand. Guess how many cards in here have a power 2 or less? All right, now I said that card draw is the issue in black-white. So I put in here a couple cards to hopefully get some more cards in your hand because you're going to be flopping cards out left and right. Sign in Blood, it's 2 to cast. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. That would be you. You're gaining life because of a lot of other things, so you have the life. You should have the life. Read the Bones, 3 to cast. You scry 2, then draw 2, and lose 2 life. If you don't know how to scry, it's just you look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them on the bottom, and the rest on top in any order. Settle the Score, it's 4 to cast. Sorcery, exile target creature. And then put 2 loyalty counters on the planeswalker you control. I didn't add any planeswalkers that I'm aware of in this deck. In fact, I didn't because there wasn't any that really needed to go in here. This is here for the exiling of a creature because you don't know what you're going to face as far as indestructible. Lately, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, rather than just killing, exiling it just works. And then the last card in the deck is Diabolic Tutor. It's 4 to cast for sorcery, and you can search your library for any card, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. No, you don't have to show your opponent. So, anyway, that is the Aryel Knight of Windgrace deck that I have put together. It's a budget deck. It's a budget commander deck. Hopefully, you got something out of this. I enjoy doing these things, but, here's the thing. So lately it's come down to I actually, the COVID thing wasn't affecting me for the longest time, and finally it is. So, having some issues as far as the keeping up with the bills kind of thing. So, all the decks that I have up on my YouTube channel, all the budget decks, I've said this, I say this through every video, they're all for sale. Each deck is $40, and if you have any interest in purchasing any of them, go ahead and contact me. I have the links for my Facebook page on the bottom or in the description of this video, or send a message to me in the comment section of this video, and I will, give me your contact information, and I will go ahead and figure out a way to contact you. However it works. But yeah, every budget deck that I have up is for sale. So if you have any interest, contact me. It's that simple. As for the video itself, please do me a favor. If you know somebody that might be interested in it, go ahead and share it to them. If you know somebody who's looking to build something like this, go ahead and share this out for them as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If I can get apparently it's the new mark for the new the way that they've got this done is you need 1,000 subscribers before you can even make a dime on YouTube anymore. So, help me get to 1,000. That would be great. It would be lovely. It would be very helpful, especially in this during the pandemic. I'm at 160, I believe, 2 as of this video, and I'm only 800 away. So if you have 800 friends, please, it would be great. But either way, thanks for what you guys have done so far. If you have any comments or questions, like I said, go to the Facebook page. It's in the link below. Send me a message if you need to. For this week, though, that was my Aryel Knight of Windgrace deck. It is for sale, $40. If you know anybody, let them know. Until next week, thank you for watching and have a good day.